Picture this: the enigmatic figure of Alexander the Great, a man whose ambition knew no bounds, whose dreams reached beyond the known horizons. In the quiet moments of twilight, as the world around him settled into slumber, his thoughts would invariably wander towards the fabled lands of India. India, a land of mystique and splendor, where the very air was said to carry the scent of exotic spices and the rivers flowed like veins of prosperity. It was a place where civilization had flourished for ages, offering riches that stirred the imagination. Alexander, the audacious conqueror, found himself captivated by the tales of resplendent cities and courts, adorned with treasures that rivaled the heavens themselves. But it wasn't merely the allure of material wealth that beckoned him. India's intellectual and spiritual richness held a fascination that gripped his restless soul. The prospect of engaging with philosophers who pondered the essence of existence under the shade of sacred trees, of conversing with minds that sought wisdom beyond borders, was an intoxicating vision. He believed that by bringing together the wisdom of East and West, he could forge a legacy unmatched by any before him. But why did he fail in conquering these majestic lands? Let me tell you about those war elephants. They were something to behold on the ancient battlefield. Picture this: massive creatures, armored up like moving fortresses, with warriors atop their backs and handlers guiding their every move. These beasts weren't just animals, they were game changers in the chaos of war. You see, those war elephants weren't just big, they were colossal. They had this knack for smashing through enemy lines like a battering ram, trampling anyone in their path. Imagine being in the thick of battle and suddenly these towering creatures come charging at you, trumpeting loud enough to shake your very soul. It's no wonder they could send seasoned soldiers into a frenzy of fear and disarray. Alexander the Great? Oh yes, he had his share of encounters with these mammoth adversaries. In his battles against the Persian Empire, he got a taste of what those elephants could do. So when he marched into India, you bet he had those memories fresh in his mind. Facing the possibility of going up against these giants again could have made him think twice about his next moves. Imagine vast rivers, flowing like lifelines across the land, carving through valleys and plains. These waterways weren't just channels for trade and life. They were formidable barriers that could make or break an invasion. You see, these rivers were more than just water. They were natural obstacles that could halt an advancing army in its tracks. Crossing them wasn't as simple as stepping over a stream. It required strategy, engineering, and timing. Imagine marching a massive army, horses, chariots, and all, with these rivers standing in your way. It's a logistical puzzle that commanders had to solve. Now, let's talk about Alexander the Great. When he ventured into new lands, rivers posed a real challenge. They could cut off supply lines, separate his forces, and force him to adapt his tactics. Take the Beas River, for instance. As he ventured into India, this river stood before him like a natural fortress, marking a point beyond which he had to consider the feasibility of further advance. Now let me tell you about the Indian king, the potent rulers who stood as formidable obstacles in Alexander's path. These weren't just kings, they were leaders who held vast dominions and commanded the loyalty of their people. Picture this: Indian kingdoms scattered across the subcontinent, each with its own unique culture, warriors, and strategies. These kings weren't about to let a foreign conqueror waltz in and claim their lands. No, they were defenders of their realms, guardians of their heritage. One of the key players was the Nanda Empire, led by King Dhanananda. This empire was a powerhouse stretching across northern India and boasting a formidable army. Nanda wasn't about to bow down to Alexander's ambitions. He saw the Macedonian king as an invader, a threat to his rule, and he was prepared to fight tooth and nail to protect his sovereignty. And then there was Porus, a name that echoed through the annals of history. A warrior king ruling over the region around the Hydaspes River, Porus was known for his valor and his loyalty to his land. When Alexander reached the banks of the Hydaspes, he found in Porus a fierce adversary who was willing to meet his forces head-on, elephants and all. These Indian kings weren't just rulers, they were commanders who understood the lay of their land. They knew the terrain, they understood the tactics that worked best in their domain, and they were well versed in the art of war. Facing these kings meant more than confronting armies. It meant entering a complex web of strategies, alliances, and cultural pride. Alexander's reputation preceded him, but these Indian kings weren't swayed by his legend. They had their own legacies to protect. They knew that their people were looking to them for leadership, for protection. So, when the Macedonian army advanced, they stood ready to defend their homes, their kingdoms, and their way of life. Here's the thing about leadership. It's not just about giving orders and expecting them to be followed blindly. Alexander's commanders were seasoned, experienced men who had fought by his side for years. They had seen the bloodshed, felt the exhaustion, and faced the uncertainty. And as the Indian campaign loomed, some of these leaders began to voice concerns. They questioned the wisdom of pushing deeper into unknown lands. They worried about the toll it would take on their men, their resources, and the cohesion of the army. Some argued that it was time to consolidate the gains they had already made rather than risk it all for more territory. These were not acts of defiance, but rather expressions of a desire to safeguard what they had achieved. Alexander's leadership was facing a crossroads. The unity that had once bound his commanders was now strained by differing opinions, by the weight of the challenges they faced. It wasn't that they were disloyal, it was that they had seen the cost of conquest up close and wanted to ensure that their efforts weren't in vain. In the grand saga of history, the leadership concerns weren't just about strategy. They were about the intricacies of human dynamics, the complexities of decision-making, and the constant tug-of-war between ambition and pragmatism. They remind us that even the mightiest leaders must navigate the currents of dissent and doubts as they strive to shape the course of history. Legends don't just happen. They're often carefully cultivated, nurtured by the narratives that rulers and their court historians weave. You see, as Alexander journeyed through distant lands, conquering city after city, he wasn't just leaving a trail of conquered territories. He was also leaving a trail of stories that were told and retold, embellished with every retelling. These stories became the foundation of his legacy, the basis for the myths that surrounded his name. Alexander's court historians played a pivotal role in shaping this narrative. They were the ones who recorded his deeds, his victories, and his interactions with conquered peoples. And while historical accuracy was valued, there was also room for the spin, for the exaggeration that elevated Alexander from mere mortal to near mythic figure. And as these tales spread across lands and cultures, they took on lives of their own. Alexander's image was one of a visionary, a warrior with a divine mandate to unite the world under his rule. His exploits were magnified, his character glorified, until he became a symbol of unassailable might. In the end, the tale of propaganda and myth-making in Alexander's story is a reminder that history isn't just a collection of facts, it's a tapestry woven with the threads of interpretation, intention, and the desire to craft a narrative that resonates through the ages. It's a testament to the power of storytelling where truth and legend often dance in a mesmerizing embrace. Remember, the past shapes our present and guides our future. Please subscribe to my channel and become a part of a community that celebrates the richness of human history.